Hey guys, Dajix here. Exciting news. I've been playing Borderlands 4 early and we're allowed to show off this section of the game right now. What you're seeing is almost the apex of one of the areas of the game called the Fade Fields. This is right before the boss fight with Idolator's Soul. So thanks to 2K for sponsoring this video and let's get right into it. What you're seeing is me checking through the shops for any killer gear. I'm using a Dayless rifle right now that can switch between SMG ammo and assault rifle ammo. The kicker is it has a Jacobs manufacturer part to let it ricochet bullets to other targets on crit. I'm absolutely loving this as it's not common to get a Jacobs effect on an automatic weapon. Now, I'm using a Vault Hunter named Rafa and he is an Exo Soldier. I'm using his Apophis Lance action skill, well, not using it nearly as much as I should. It does ordnance shock damage in a line and pierces through targets. It's a lot more effective than it seemed in the demos going around, dealing much more damage than your weapons at all stages of the game. I'm pretty far into the game right now and a lot further than this particular section at least, and it's still very effective. It's especially effective with an ordnance damage build like the one I have. You're seeing me throw out these teleporting grenades. It's new to Borderlands 4, a slot specifically for your heavy weapons or grenades or even throwing weapons like knives. They have their own cooldowns on the items themselves. I absolutely love this slot and I've been using it far more than I use even my action skill. Having a cooldown gives you so many more opportunities to use this in combat than we've ever had before. Now, this particular grenade is from a new manufacturer called Ripper. The Ripper grenade effect lets them teleport them to your target, which is insanely good, making it super accurate, instant, and makes it so you can avoid having to guesstimate timings. With this build, every time I throw a grenade, I get increased action skill cooldown rate. So I should be bringing the Lance to open fights, but yeah, I don't because I'm having too much fun popping targets. You'll see here that it places down an incendiary effect, which is great for area denial. There's a few times in this footage where I actually use that to great effect to make kind of like a kill box or a kill zone where I'm forcing my enemies to come to me and therefore take damage. Now, the badasses in the game will take quite a bit more to kill. I use my Apophis Lance here to kind of burn him down. It is using shock damage against armor, but as you can see, it still does a lot of damage. It is a very powerful skill. Now I use the grenade here to make it so the other enemy has to walk through it, but it doesn't. The witnesses just stay at range. The witnesses are mostly summoned by the flying warden enemies, so you want to be killing those first, but I'm not paying attention right now. I mentioned that the Apophis Lance does ordnance damage, but what I didn't mention is just how many ways you can boost that. There are a lot of skills in Rafa's skill tree that help with ordnance. There is also firmware, which you unlock a little later on in the game, which are almost set bonuses attached to your gear that you can transfer to other gear with a specific station. One of the firmwares actually boosts your ordnance damage by quite a lot with only one piece, with 3 pieces making it even more powerful. You also have specializations at the end game which focus specifically around ordnance damage as well, one of which actually gives you more ordnance damage. I think it's 50% ordnance damage based on your gun damage. Now here I bring out the Apophis Lance and you can see it piercing through a ton of targets. That is what I'm used to seeing. While I'm playing through regularly, every time I use the Apophis Lance, it's doing that. Now I'm just seeing where I need to go, and this is a badass bulkhead with Vampiric and Boogie. I'm not sure what Boogie does, but Vampiric makes it so it obviously regenerates its health back as it deals damage. Now all of these attacks, you'll notice that I am ducking behind cover or dodging to the left or right to get away from them, because you do die fairly quickly if you take sustained damage. So I get to this little nook here, and as soon as it casts its little wave thing, I duck behind the cover and that blocks it completely. You can also shoot those waves, and most enemies have skills that you can actually shoot to dispatch. Now this drops a lot of iridium. I think that might have been what Boogie meant. but this was the first and only time that iridium almost volcanoed out of an enemy. All right, we're getting too ahead of ourselves. Let's pause here and go back. There was something else I needed to mention, and then we'll go through what rewards we just got. Okay, here we see that the Apophis Lance is still cooling down after just having fired it, but throwing out the grenades rapidly cools it down and letting us use it again. Back to where we were, I noticed that we had a reward for killing 100 enemies with dayless weapons. This is a challenge, and there are plenty of those that give cosmetic, STU, or weapon rewards. You also get rewards from missions in the same way by going into this menu and clicking them open. This also gives us a hover deck for our Digi Runner, our vehicle, which we can summon outdoors to get around quickly. Different manufacturers give different stats. I use a lot of Jacob's weapons, so I had a rank 3 hover deck at this time, and Jacob's gives good handling and boost. I can't remember off the top of my head what Dayless focuses on. But here you see the new enhancements. They buff up particular manufacturers. That one was Torque, so it will give Torque a bonus, but the stats below the bonus, they apply to any gun. Like you can see that Ripper one, it has gun handling, for example. That applies to anything, not just Ripper manufacturer parts. All right, so I decide I want to switch to a submachine gun, a Malawan one in particular, because of the corrosive damage it gives. I noticed that order troops, they have either shields and armor or just armor. And armor takes extra damage from corrosive. And for the shields, this is a blast wave right there, an under barrel effect, and this is a regular effect. And for the shields, as I was saying, we have the Apophis Lance, which does shock damage. So we have kind of all our bases covered there with this weapon. I end up not using it a lot because I get knocked into the fight for your life effect, and I needed a bit more range and accuracy, so I end up switching back to that Dayless rifle with the Jacob's licensed part, which I just love the sound effects of. Right now though, we're walking towards the mission objective. I'm not going to go through exactly what's been happening in the story. I'll leave that up to you. I'll keep this purely gameplay focused. I opened with a grenade. It's not the right move, honestly. I just wanted to test out the gun though. That's why I'm just firing. It would have been better to get the lance out first, get that on cooldown, then use throwing grenades to regenerate that cooldown back up a lot faster. Now, look in the bottom left there. That's my armor right above my health. I've got on an armor shield instead of an energy shield. It has 2 pips. Every time the bar that is regenerating, the yellow one above the armor, fills up to the maximum, I get back 1 pip. So right now is at 134. I would get up to 1 pip more plus that little bit extra because it's exactly a pip, not just up to the most recently filled pip. It's a full pip extra every time that regenerates. And that regenerates while you're under fire, which is different to the usual energy shields, which stop regenerating if you've taken damage. And it also, armor shields have an added effect of giving you damage resistance while you have armor up. So right now I lost the armor and I took a hell of a lot of health damage because I lost that damage resistance. I'm probably going to drop very soon. I should probably heal instead of getting out that Apophis Lance, which I activate far too late. And there it is. I switched to the rifle just so I've got a bit more accuracy and range just to get back up on my feet. Now, like I mentioned, the armor shield has damage resistance. I think this one's just over 20%. So armor shields are great at getting into a fight and being very aggressive. And you'll notice with a lot of the armor shields themselves, they give aggressive effects. One that I have not on right now, but I had on, gave me 10% damage on my weapons every time a pip broke. So it had 3 pips. So I was walking around with plus 30% weapon damage a lot of the time, which is very aggressive. Whereas the energy shields, they usually have more defensive abilities on them. Not to say they won't have offensive abilities, but they usually have more defensive ones. And they usually have a higher amount of defense on them to substitute for the fact they don't have that damage resistance. But you're going to be more of a guerrilla warfare kind of combatant, so to speak, if you use an energy shield, because you're going to want to duck out of combat and take no damage for a while just so that can regenerate. I just got absolutely wrecked by that badass, but that's why you keep up the scrub enemies, so you have something to kill when you do get knocked to your feet, and focus on those harder to kill enemies first, which is a little different from other games, but that's just Borderlands for you. Now, you'll also notice on the ground, there is this reddish gold items. When they come up, I'll point them out, and they restore your armor pips, like a full armor pip if you walk over them, which is different to the items that drop for your energy shields. That's one there, right there, and I pick it up and I restore a pip. Pretty cool. So the pips themselves, when they break, they give you an effect. So it seems like having armor shields give you a bigger bonus for picking up the armor pip restoring items off the ground, because you're getting back another pip. You'll get back another effect. Say if that one breaks, you get another 10%. So then you're up to 40% gun damage. I might actually go back to that part just there, what happened after I finished talking about armor, because that was very cool. This is the little kill box that I talked about before. So I find, especially with Rafa, that armor shields function a lot better for him, at least. We know that Vault Hunters are going to gravitate towards one or the other, typically, depending on their build. And it seems like with Rafa's passives, he focuses more on liking the armor shields. At least that's what it feels like, because the aggressiveness of Rafa and a lot of his abilities really enjoys having armor. Now, let's go back. All right, I'm back. You can use the melee to use your grapple to pick up explosives in the area and then aggressively throw them at enemies. I noticed at this point that it was forming a kind of kill box. So I thought, all right, let's put down these to kind of area deny. If they walk closer to me, they're going to take extra damage. Then I fully charged the lance and pierced through all of those targets, doing a lot of damage. And as you can see, I'm just placing down the grenades again, area denying again. In the meantime, just spreading those Jacob's ricochet effects, and I clear out a ton of enemies, which would have taken a lot longer if I didn't hit a lot of them at once with single abilities that have AoE effects. Now, these Watchmen aren't very hard to kill, but I'm enjoying spraying them in the head with the rifle and watching those and hearing those sound effects of the crits there, which are very, very satisfying. There you go. That effect, I never get tired of. Now, I mentioned legendaries. I've only seen one up to this point of the game. That particular legendary was the Oh My God legendary SMG, which fires a beam that consumes your energy shields to deal more damage, and I had armor shields, so it didn't really work with my build. Also, my build is sniping like I'm doing here. I can send things out at maximum range and deal a lot of damage without getting in close, and that legendary rifle required me. Oh, that was a Vex class mod that just dropped, but it's not anything other than common, so I don't bother with it. So I don't really need to get up close, and that legendary required me to get up close to deal damage, so it never really was good for my build. And that's what I've been finding with this game, is that legendaries are quite niche, and if they work for your build, they're going to be very good for your build. But if they don't, you're just kind of going to put them aside. And that's how it was in Borderlands 3 as well. But because of the sheer quantity of legendaries that dropped, you found yourself using a lot of them. I'm fairly far into the game and I've only seen 2 legendaries drop. And I'm using mostly epics. I'm even using epics here. You can see bottom right, I'm using all epic guns. They have more modifiers on them. So in a general purpose setting, they're usually better. If you get god tier rolls, obviously legendaries are going to kind of exceed those. And if you get the legendaries that you need, it's going to exceed epics. But epics are never going to be useless, because they do have that one extra modifier that they get that legendaries won't, because legendaries have the legendary effect that take up one modifier slot. So yes, I have been finding that epics themselves are just as good in a lot of cases. And you can see it with this rifle. It does a lot of damage, and just the fact that it's a rapid fire weapon that does the Jacobs effect is very, very satisfying. Now, at this section of the game, I miss. If I looked in the map, I would have noticed there are some collectibles. I actually beat the boss and have to come back to finish. Oh my god. Okay, let's talk about this first. Let me go back and show you. But enemies are almost fully modeled inside. So if you kill an enemy, it's like bursting open a piñata of blood and bone. Their skeletons are fully modeled, especially the humanoid enemies. If you say melee an arm, that arm is going to come off, blood's going to go everywhere, and you're going to see the arm bones. I'm sure more come up here, but I'll go back if it doesn't. Where killing enemies, I sound like a psychopath now, but killing enemies is so satisfying because they explode into mists of blood or sacks of meat, and you never really, and even these synths here, their head blows off and essentially their blood goes everywhere. But let's see if it happens with this gunman here. Yeah, his head just absolutely flew off. It's very satisfying in like you're gonna feel like a bit like a psychopath because you're gonna get some joy from seeing the gore in this game. It's very gory. Now, Jacob's grenades are actually throwing knives. They don't explode unless they have MIRV attachments or whatever, but they make them explode into paste. All right, let's just go back to that. Yeah, see what I mean? Body parts just come off kind of dynamically, which is absolutely insane. But let's move on from that before you guys call the police. Now, I get up here to dodge enemy fire, to use this wall as kind of a barrier so I don't take too much damage, because I noticed that my armor pips are quite low. This badass Hulk head here, it fires these rapid fire bolts, but what I'm trying to do is get behind the cover when it fires that wave, because that wave will one or two shot you. It gets blocked by the wall there, and I believe I block it out of the sky here too. In a second he'll fire another one and then I shoot it. There we go. So if you're trying to get crits on the enemy, you'll just by happenstance end up blocking those shots as well. And there are a lot of enemies in the game, like I mentioned, that you can actually either dodge their attacks or shoot them out the sky, like that one just there. So the game actually rewards you for skill, which is good because there are a lot of enemies in this game. There are a lot of enemy variety. These wardens here, they summon minions. You'll notice that 6 damage tick was actually from a class mod. I unlocked a passive that I didn't have before. The passive doesn't actually exist in the demo. It's a new passive where you aim down sights and you do shock damage. So I should be aiming down sights more, but I kind of suck because I grew up in a time where there was no aim down sights. It was all hip firing. So yeah, I'm old and I like hip firing better. So I pick up a new grenade. I figure why not try using it? And you can see immediately I'm used to the teleport effect of the Ripper grenades. So I need to get the arc right to kind of get that off. But it is a cryo grenade that splits into multiples. Now, cryo is amazing in this game. It makes it so you can line up your headshots very effectively if you have a gun that needs those headshots or a build that needs those headshots, because it first slows targets, making it easier, and then when that frost builds up enough, it freezes them. If you have a cryo build, it's going to freeze very often, and freezing enemies means you can just line them up or finish them off fairly quickly. This one has 3 charges, so it works very well with the build. You'll notice that I've been using the drone to kind of figure out where I need to go. If I press the melee button here, I'll vote up, and that's the direct. Whoa, kill that guy almost instantly with the grenades, all 3 hitting. I'll probably use it against the next enemy, so let's see that frost effect build up. Yeah, the synth should take at least 1, but you can see because it was frozen a little bit, it kind of stays in place, letting us kill it fairly easily, letting us land our hits fairly easily on it. Now we're approaching the end of this section, right up to the boss fight, which is just down the middle there. We're actually allowed to show the boss, and mechanically he's really cool. You need to kind of take down his immunity, and then there's a bit of a risk reward in it. Do you keep up his minions? Because if you keep his minions up, he can kind of absorb them into himself and get that immunity phase back that you've stripped away. But if you kill his minions beforehand, you have no security if you drop to your feet and you need to fight for your life. However, if you leave the minions up and he starts absorbing them, if you're quick enough, you can kill them, stunning him, letting you get more damage into him. So it'll depend on your build how you approach this. If you're really good at killing minions quickly, you have a rapid fire weapon, for example, then you want to just keep them up and let the guy try to absorb them and you stun him. If you can't kill minions quickly, then you probably want to clear them out first and then take your chances with him, because getting that immunity back means you have to do a whole cycle again and strip them away. So it's a very interesting fight. It's mechanically very different to what I've seen before. You need to utilize your zip line and you need to dodge a few things. You need to avoid area of effects. I should be dashing here. You can kind of jump and press shift and left or right to dash to get away from those attacks. I should be attacking his boils here as well. I noticed the second time I played him, I killed him much quicker than this, just because you kind of figure out his patterns and shoot those green boils, and I should have double jumped there, but yeah, that's the first time playing him, so you don't kind of realize what he's about until you see it for yourself. So that there, he will hit you if you try to run away. You do need to dash to the side to get away from those. And yeah, so that's Idolator Soul. I'll just let this play out and I'll rejoin you at the end and we'll talk about legendary loot and drops and stuff like that. Alright, ciao for now.
To what do I owe the displeasure?
Escape.
Off target!
By his command. You value your skills much too highly.
That shot at any distance!
You will be forgotten here. None shall weep.
Now, you'll also notice when I kill him, I don't get a legendary drop, but we can use Moxie's terminal to pay a bit of money and replay the fight, hoping that you do get some legendaries. Like I mentioned though, getting legendaries is legendary, it's quite rare. So I get a few epics, I get a class mod, I believe, I get something else. But that's everything, guys. What do you think? I'll try to answer all the questions you have about this game in the comments below, so be sure to ask them away. I have tons more Borderlands 4 content coming, so you're definitely in the right place. Thanks again to 2K for sponsoring this video and providing access 2 weeks before release. It really shows their confidence in the game. If you're interested at all in the game, follow the link in the description, it helps me out a lot. Plus, pre-ordering the game gets you the Guild of Glory pack featuring new cosmetics and some weapons to help you along in your journey. So thank you again for watching, and until next time, ciao friends.